want to get you to Capitol Hill, where Senate Democrats are fighting today to delay the confirmation of Senator Jeff Sessions as the next Attorney General. They were reading from a letter written by Coretta Scott King in 1986 opposing Senator Sessions' nomination as a judge.
And this comes after Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren was cut off while reading that same letter last night. Nancy Cortez is on Capitol Hill with Senator Warren right now. We're going to take a listen to that interview.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Senator Elizabeth Warren, thank you so much for joining us. What has your last 12 hours been like?
Well, you know, look, I went to the floor of the Senate last night expecting to do my constitutional duty, to debate whether or not Jeff Sessions should be the next Attorney General of the United States. I'd worked on my speech. An important part of my speech was to look back to the last time Jeff Sessions came in front of the United States Senate. He had been the U.S. Attorney for Alabama, and as such, he had prosecuted civil rights workers for trying to help elderly African Americans vote. So Senator Ted Kennedy, my predecessor in the Senate, had made a statement, and I wanted to read his statement. And Coretta Scott King, the widow of the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., had also written a letter to the committee. And ultimately, a Republican-led Senate rejected Senator Sessions, I think based in part on what Senator Kennedy and what Coretta Scott King had said. So I thought, what could be more relevant than that? So I went to the floor, I read Senator Kennedy's statement, and I was warned that I better not step out of line. And then I read Coretta Scott King's letter. And can I read you just the line that I read? The line was, Mr. Sessions has used the awesome power of his office to chill the free exercise of the vote by black citizens.
Do you know why that upset Republicans?
Mitch McConnell came to the floor and shut me down over that sentence.
Republicans say you're impugning the motives of one of your own colleagues, and that's forbidden by Senate rules.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about the facts. And they seem to think that Jeff Sessions, because he is a senator, doesn't have to be examined the way anyone else would be who is nominated for Attorney General of the United States. Let's be clear. In reading Coretta Scott King's letter, she doesn't call names. She doesn't throw accusations. She just documents what actually happened. If I can, one of the things she documents, she says that if he is confirmed, he will be given life tenure for doing with a federal prosecution what the local sheriffs accomplished 20 years ago with clubs and cattle prods. She describes in here many elderly blacks were visited multiple times by the FBI, who then hauled them over 180 miles by bus to a grand jury in Mobile, when they could have more easily testified at a grand jury 20 miles away in Selma. The Republicans don't deny that any of this is accurate and that this is what Jeff Sessions did. They just think it was impolite for me to mention it.
Did you expect to get reprimanded?
No, I did not.
What did you think you were being reprimanded for?
You know, I have to say, when I was warned, I paused and asked what they were talking about, because I actually couldn't imagine. Senator Kennedy was a senator right here. That's the point. And this was in 1986, evidently all right to say. But now this Republican-controlled Senate says that I have to sit down, be quiet. I am not allowed to speak on the floor of the Senate again until the Sessions nomination is over.
Republicans argue that Senator Sessions' civil rights record has been distorted for decades. Is that a fair concern?
I'm sorry, where's the part that's not true about his investigation resulted in many elderly blacks being visited multiple times by the FBI, who then hauled them by bus over 180 miles? All I can say is, look, read her letter. This is Coretta Scott King's letter. I've posted it, I put it on Facebook, I've tweeted it. Read her letter. It is a letter that is factual, and then it is a letter that is from the heart, that says this is what it means when a man like Jeff Sessions is put in charge.
Do you think there's a reason that they reprimanded you and not some other Democrat?
You'd have to ask them. You know, I was doing the job that the people of Massachusetts sent me down to Washington to do. I was debating whether or not I thought Jeff Sessions ought to be the Attorney General of the United States. And you know, I'll add one more. It's about what he has done with African Americans. It's about with women. He voted against the Violence Against Women Act, voted against equal pay for equal work. I've been on the floor over and over and over for his speeches going after immigrants, legal immigrants. It's all of that, and it's one more. We as Americans may have to turn to our Attorney General, our #1 law officer in America, to tell an out-of-control president that his orders are illegal and unconstitutional. That means we're going to need somebody strong and independent with a moral compass.
One of your Republican colleagues, Lindsey Graham, said today that you had it coming to you for some time. Do you feel like you made this debate about Jeff Sessions too personal?
I don't understand how he can say that. I mean, I just genuinely don't. I read Coretta Scott King's letter from 1986, a letter that at that time was persuasive to the United States Senate, and merely reading the words is enough to say that I've somehow violated the rules of the Senate. This is like saying truth doesn't matter, the facts don't matter, what happened doesn't matter. All that matters is that we smile and be polite to each other. You know, I didn't hurl any ugly names, but I'll tell you this. I think what is respectful is when you actually debate the merits of a case. And I'm just not turning loose on this one.
My last question is,
Sure.
You did send out a fundraising letter shortly after all of this happened. How much have you raised off of this?
I don't have any idea. But I'll tell you this, lots of people have now seen Coretta Scott King's letter. Lots of children have read it. Lots of people all around the country have moved this letter around so that I think it's more a part of our living history again. And I am really delighted that's the case. That's how it should be. We needed to hear from Coretta Scott King on this.
Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's good to be here.